Speaking of publishers, a number of writers credit the late Jim Bain with keeping military fiction and military science fiction in particular alive. What are your thoughts on this, and how do you see some of what you're doing as fitting in with that effort?
Well, I think Jim, I don't know that he kept it alive, but he sure did provide most of the life support. I don't think it would have vanished without him because I just don't think it's going to vanish. I think it's too important and it's too much a part of human culture. On the other hand, I think it would have really hurt without Jim. And Jim took the stance that he would publish strong stories. He would forgive weaker writing. He would forgive a lot of things provided the story was strong. And that was what I think was the core of what Jim brought out as the identity of Bain Books. Jim also was very much an old-time SF guy. So if you look at Bain Books covers, that was Jim's style, old-time SF covers. And for better or worse, you know a Bain book when you see its cover. So I think Jim deserves an enormous amount of credit for that. One thing I think Jim deserves more credit for than he gets is discovering new writers and nurturing them. Jim did a better job of taking writers from the slush pile or who had sold a few things and turning them into serious sellers than probably any other editor out there, just on a numeric basis. And so if you look at the big Bain authors who are best-selling authors, you know, Dave and Eric Flint and John Ringo and David Weber, all of those people were people that Jim nurtured and brought along. And Jim bought my first book. It's done very well for a first SF novel. I'm very grateful for that. And I don't think it would have necessarily gotten, well, it certainly wouldn't have gotten anywhere near the attention of any other publishing house. And now Jim died not long after buying it, so that was very unfortunate. But I think he deserves a lot of credit both for popularizing space opera and military SF, which are really kind of separate. I'm writing more space opera than military SF, and for new writers. He deserves a lot for that.
As a techie and fellow geek, what do you think of blogging today and of mill blogging?
I think it's inevitable. I think it is a good thing. I think some of it is a dangerous thing. And I think that we'll never put the cap back on that particular bottle. You know, it's good in that people should be able to share information, and you know, a number of intelligence agencies have recently set up their own wiki for sharing and sorting. And there's power in collected information from lots of individuals. I think it's dangerous because it gives potentially more information to enemies, but you also get back. And most of all, I don't think you can stop it. People are going to start sharing their information. And you said you've gone and done embeds. I mean, there's just going to be an immediacy that didn't exist before. And we're never going to stop people once these tools are out there. And so I think that our challenge is to use it wisely. And I believe what we will see going forward in warfare is counter-blogging, fake blogging, disinformation done on a pseudo-personal basis. And I ultimately believe we will see, in times of conflict, AI, in a very rough terms, pieces of computer software creating disinformation blogs to flood that. And probably some of them would be no worse than some of the political blogs out there now, in my opinion.
I can't disagree with that at all. So, what do you think of some of the unofficial and even official efforts to attack blogs and blogging?
Oh, it's doomed. It's completely doomed. The world worked like this. There were individual people, and then they got together and made villages, and they had connections at the speed of their ability to talk. And as they built cities and mass media came in, you had the distance of the radio tower near you. You could keep up with that. You could read your newspaper. People could phone things in, then faxes connect. When you go forward a little bit from where we are now, everything everywhere will be instantaneously accessible to anybody with the time and the inclination to look. I think it's going to have huge implications for privacy. It's going to have huge implications for sharing, and trying to stomp it out is like trying to put out a national park on fire by pissing on one tree. It's just not going to work. It's here to stay.
How do you see blogging and future communications activities impacting science fiction and military science fiction?
Well, I think certainly we're all going to have to, as writers, take into account the extreme connectedness of people. But one of the good things working for anybody as a writer is that the limiting factor is your time. Any one person only has so much time. Plus, and this is one of the things that I allude to in the background of my novels, we're going to start seeing agents on the web doing things for people. So for example, in my first book, in One Jump Ahead, I had the head of a local company who has very squeaky clean data on him out on the local data sources when my hero goes to look him up. And the conclusion my hero has is not that he's a squeaky clean guy, but that he has really good software. Corporate bots crawling and deleting references as quickly as they can. And I think there's going to be this software battle raging all the time, much the way porn filters are trying to stop people in libraries who find new ways to go around them. And my spam filter lets through plenty of crap, you know.
Even though you are technically one of them, what do you think of the new generation of military fiction and science fiction writers that have come out recently?
Like every group, I think there are some really good writers, and I think there are some not as good writers. And you know, I spent a lot of time with a group of writers that came to a conference that I co-founded with John Kessel called the Sycamore Hill Writers Conference. I don't think any of them would read or like my novels. They are not, in their terms, literary enough. I find that unfortunate. I like a lot of their work, but I think that writers naturally find their audiences, at least if given a chance, and some of our audiences are big and some of our audiences are small. I'm hoping I have a big audience, but I don't know, and I think that anybody out there writing and selling, they have my best wishes and sympathies, because it's a mug's game. You know, you're going to be tormented by it, and if you're smart, you're going to be tormented by the fact that no matter who you are, even if you manage to be the next Shakespeare, which you won't, I won't, you're still going to be a minority taste if you flash forward enough time. So I think there are a lot of good people out there, and there are a lot of mediocre people out there, same as always.